How are we doing, everybody? And welcome back to the channel. My name is Sam. I also go by Ruby T, and today I have week 3 of the VDL Draft League for you, and hoping to bring you something more positive this week. So yeah, as you can see, I'm actually doing post-coms this week, which is not the way I usually do it. I don't really like post-coms personally. I think it takes away from what you're actually thinking at the time, unless you're really writing down your thoughts or really present and thinking about it. However, at the end of a fairly challenging week, my capture card decided to give up on me, and so I couldn't do live comms yesterday. But thankfully, my opponent, and Batista, whose channel is linked down below, very, very graciously gave me his footage. So please go and follow him and like his video and watch his side of the battle as well, because he didn't need to do that, and it's really really appreciated. So yeah. Okay, so obviously going into this week, we are 0-2, and Batista has a really, really cool team. It's a mono poison type team in this draft, which is pretty awesome, I think. And he's 2-0, we're 0-2, so yeah, not looking great for us going into it, but I was pretty confident with the team I built. While I hadn't actually done any prep or like any calcs or anything, again, because it's been kind of a long week, I was pretty happy that I could play quite fast and loose and quite offensively this week with Terrakion, Braviary, and then having Togedemaru, Purloin, and Mr. Rhyme to kind of help support. Chandelure was there as more of a backup, or if not necessarily a backup, but an encouragement for Batista to kind of bring the Scun Tank, because I figured if Chandelure's there, he's going to want to bring the Scun Tank, because otherwise he doesn't necessarily have anything to hit it brilliantly. As it turns out, the Toxicroak could definitely have done loads of work into the Chandelure anyway, but that was the kind of idea. The Terrakion on my side this week is Choice Scarfed. The Braviary is Life Orb Sheer Force, because I didn't figure he would bring Intimidate to this battle. I didn't think Quillfish matched up brilliantly into my team. I've also gone for the Sturdy on the Togedemaru, and it was a pretty interesting team to build for, actually, because you think with a monotype team it might give you the edge on team building, because there's obviously going to be like naturally a lot of shared weaknesses. There's going to be typings which all of his Pokemon or most of his Pokemon are weak to. Like, for example, you look now, like 4 of those Pokemon are weak to Psychic, 5 depending on Wheezing, weak to ground, but it's actually challenging, because it's knowing that your opponent's a very clever team builder, a very clever player. So yeah, anyway, jumping into game 1 here, I decided to lead with Braviary and Terrakion. Like I said, Terrakion is obviously Scarf, which means it outspeeds everything on my opponent's team, and Braviary is Life Orbed and Sheer Force, so it just hits really, really hard. The idea behind this lead was basically saying he can't KO both Pokemon. As it is, taking a look at his leads, this is kind of exactly what I hoped would come out. With the Mr. Rhyme and the Chandelure on my side, I figured he was going to have to lead a kind of combination of something along with Skuntank, and I just figured Skuntank wasn't going to be able to do too much damage. Even a Play Rough was never going to pick up an Oko, and unless Toxicroak is able to fake out and then Play Rough crits, there's no way Terrakion goes down turn 1, which also means Braviary is a little freer to make some moves as well. That said, you always kind of feel nervous on this first turn. I was interested to see what was going to come out from his side. So he does fake out, and he fakes out into the Braviary, which is really good. I managed to get off an Earthquake, which of course doesn't affect my own Braviary, and does hit both Pokemon on his side of the field for a big amount of damage. And this is exactly why I thought Scarf Terrakion was the way to go this week. It just seemed really, really good, because like now there's no way for him to stop Terrakion taking both KOs and also attacking. It just puts so much pressure on, and it also frees up Braviary to launch an attack of its own as well. Because again, like, Braviary is going to outspeed Toxicroak and Skuntank. Unless, of course, it has Sucker Punch, which it turns out it does. But it really just puts me in a really strong position. I think my opponent here, again, like, it's difficult for him to switch into what is going to be an Earthquake here. We haven't given away the Scarf yet, but I think there's no reason I shouldn't. There's no reason for me not to Earthquake, if you see what I mean. I decide on the other end of things that with Braviary, I'm going to go for a Zen Headbutt. If both Pokemon stay in here, Terrakion will pick up a KO on Toxicroak and Skuntank, and so just in case the Skuntank was going to be switched, if it was going to go into Wheezing with Levitate, or into, say, a Mungus or something like that, it just means we're going to definitely get damage onto that slot instead of what could possibly have been a wasted turn. Again, other options I could have gone for there is actually maybe a switch, or but then I'm going to hit myself with Earthquake. So it just seemed the most sensible thing to do at the time. Now, Naganadel comes out. Naganadel is kind of one of those Pokemon which is like built for a choice item. You know, Scarf Naganadel, or even Specs Naganadel sometimes can really do large amounts of damage. So at this stage, I feel fairly confident in my position that I can afford to just go for this Earthquake here and not risk too much into these Pokemon. But it also pays to be cautious, right? So I don't want to lose Terrakion necessarily right now. But I figure with Terrakion and Braviary here, he can't KO both Pokemon, right? There's no way he can KO both of my Pokemon in this situation. So as it happens, he goes for the double protect with Skuntank, and I do outspeed. There's no Scarf on the Naganadel, so we pick up the KO on the Skuntank, which is really nice for Mr. Rhyme, who is in the back. Because there's no more dark type Pokemon to kind of ruin his fun. Naganadel goes to the Sludge Bomb into Braviary, which is always going to pick up the KO there and get it the Beast Boost. However, at this stage now, I know Terrakion is always going to outspeed, and I'm always going to be able to get an Earthquake off when I want to. And I think for this game one, that almost seals it. Not entirely, because the Weezing comes out, which obviously has stab super effective damage into Terrakion. But it does put me in a pretty helpful position. I also have the Fake Out available with Togedemaru. Togedemaru is actually... I actually put some thought into its EV spread this week. It's not just 252, 252, which quite often with the sturdy variant is the way to go. It does have a little bit of bulk, not loads, but just a little bit. So what I decided here is I figured we're gonna get Protect from somebody, right? There's no way we're gonna get away with with him letting me have this Fake Out. If we are going to get away with it, I figure it's still a good time for me to just to go for a switch here, just so I don't have to Earthquake into my Togedemaru, and in case that when I bring Terrakion back out, there's a better option for which move to use. There may well not be, and that's fine, because I'm still pretty confident that Earthquake from this stage will probably win me the game. So, but it's just more of a precaution, you know, in case that turn didn't quite go the way I thought, and I needed to use a different move with Terrakion. It was more just to try and guarantee that I don't let this slip with a stupid decision late on. So yeah, Naganadel is going to be the fastest thing on the field now. He goes for a Protect with the Naganadel and goes for a Flamethrower into the Togedemaru. I figured Weezing might have Flamethrower as a way to definitely hit the Togedemaru. Naganadel's Protect does not work out for it. Fake Out doesn't quite pick up the KO. And Iron Head goes into the Weezing, and that puts it firmly within the range of an Earthquake, and that just guarantees that we will seal it up once Terrakion comes back out onto the field. Weezing picks up the KO onto Togedemaru, who had done its job simply by bringing Fake Out and getting some Iron Head damage. Because so my fear was essentially that 2 Dazzling Gleams from Weezing, or 1 Dazzling Gleam from Weezing rather, at this range, would be enough to take out the Terrakion, and that my Earthquake would not do enough to the Weezing that I could pick sort of finish the game up from there. Obviously, with 2 Fake Out users, there was always a chance I'd be able to play out that endgame, provided I make the right decisions, but this just seemed more solid. So I go for a Protect on Mr. Rhyme with his nice hat and his lovely walking stick, and we are able to pick up both the Weezing and the Naganadel. So Terrakion actually gets all 4 KOs in this first game, and we take it 2-0, which is really nice, because it's finally time to win a game one after last week's really poor showing. It just felt very nice to kind of get off to what I thought was a solid start, and it also allowed me to preempt his adaptations and to, you know, I think sometimes in draft league formats, like if you're playing a best of 3 in VGC, I think quite often you don't necessarily not want to, but you definitely don't need to win game one, purely because it allows you to gain information about your opponent and sometimes just just you know, not letting your opponent take the game on, but if your opponent does take the game on, it really doesn't affect you too much because you learn plenty of information. Whereas in Draft League, I find winning game one can be so handy just because it allows you to bring something in the back that you didn't bring in the game before. It means your opponent has to adapt or has to adjust. So yeah, it put me in a really, what I felt like was a really strong position for this game two. Game two, there was a couple of disconnects. It was really weird. I've never had this before where like both players disconnected but neither disconnected from the internet. I actually I ended up filming on my phone because this happened a couple of times. I just wanted to make sure that it was nothing my end, but yeah, it was really, really odd. Like, it would just disconnect without, it would just say the same message to both of us. So I've cut up some of the footage. I was sent to, just not to show that. I know it's shown on his video, but I just, I didn't want to leave it in on mine as well. I didn't think there was any point in us both having the disconnect in there. So yeah, there we go. Right, so game two, I figure, he's definitely going to be leading fake out. Like, he needs to lead fake out, especially now I've shown the Scarf Terrakion. I think without fake out, he's just going to be in all sorts of trouble. It would allow me to immediately get off a big hit, and because I've got Scarf, it allows me to run Adamant. And Adamant Terrakion has just does so much damage. Like, it's really difficult to stop. So I decided what I might do is lead a fake out of my own, just in case he doesn't. And I'm going to leave Terrakion in the back. And what I'm going to do is try and remove anything he brings to counter Terrakion first up. And once I remove that, I think I'm going to be in a pretty solid position to try and bring it home with Terrakion in the late game. So I send out Braviary and Mr. Rhyme. Braviary is still carrying a huge amount of damage. And he's also been fairly keen to target the Braviary. I wonder if he's suspecting Tailwind. I think I definitely would suspect Tailwind up against the Braviary. And I bring Mr. Rhyme for a little bit of support, and I figured his answer to Terrakion would probably be Amoonguss. So I know he's going to fake out this turn, which means he won't need to Rage Powder, which means he likely is going to be going for a Spore. So I just decided to double protect. I think that was the safest option. I figured it was unlikely either of these Pokemon were going to be setting up on me. I don't know if Amoonguss gets any setup moves. I didn't check that far in advance, but I'm pretty confident that it doesn't. So I figured double protect was a pretty safe way to go. As it is, I could have maybe done something a bit more clever, but that was what was needed in this situation, in my opinion. So now is an interesting period for me because I could target down this Toxicroak if I wanted to. However, I know that Terrakion just does plenty to it, and I don't think it low kick obviously would do a lot of damage to Terrakion, but between Terrakion and Braviary and Mr. Rhyme, I just didn't feel threatened by the Toxicroak. So what I decided to do here was I'm always going to live the Sucker Punch. I'm actually quite offensive Mr. Rhyme this week, but I decided to double up into the Amoonguss, right? So Brave Bird is always going to pick up the KO, but Cobra Berry was going to be the most likely item, I think, or Focus Sash. In a matchup where you're bringing Amoonguss against a kind of, certainly against a Braviary. So I decided to double up, because once the Amoonguss is gone, I'm confident I can clear the rest of the field up with Terrakion, provided I don't make any really kind of silly mistakes, right? Now, I don't know at this stage which Pokemon he's got in the back. I know Naganadale's going to be here. Naganadale just is his biggest damage output. I didn't know if he'd be bringing Skuntank again, but whatever happened, I was pretty happy with the start of this match, and I had a kind of plan for what I wanted to do. So I know my Braviary is going to outspeed the Toxicroak, and which means I need to just buy myself a turn, right? I need to give myself a turn to get Braviary faster than Naganadale, or bring in something that's going to outspeed the Naganadale. I didn't want to go straight into Terrakion because Mr. Rhyme was at such low health. I felt like a double up could have been on the cards, or he could even low kick into that slot. So I went for Purloin, and I decided to protect Braviary because I figure he's going to be targeting it down. So Naganadale Sludge Bombs into Purloin. We are actually especially bulky Purloin, so we take it pretty nicely. And Toxicroak's Gunk Shot goes into the Braviary, which means I'm now in a really nice position to just apply a little bit of pressure here, actually. Purloin obviously has Fake Out, which means one of these Pokemon is not going to be able to move, which also means I am free to launch an attack with the Braviary. I don't know at this stage which with whether or not the Toxicroak has Protect. I know Naganadel has Protect, but with the way that the speeds work here, that Naganadel was the only fake out option for me. I have Thunderwave, so if he does protect the Naganadel this turn, that's fine. I'll attack into the Toxicroak slot, and I'll still be able to deal with the Naganadel later. So we do fake out the Naganadel. We get a critical hit, which actually may matter. It doesn't matter in the context of this game now, but it may have mattered because that definitely means Naganadel's in KO range from Earthquake, I think. Whereas I'm not sure. I think it's a roll if I don't pick up the crit. So yeah, that is really important. Unfortunately for me, Gunk Shot does not KO the Braviary here, which is what I would have much preferred. If Gunk Shot KOs the Braviary, I'm able to bring in the Terrakion, and from that point, that's game over. As it is now, I need to find a way to make sure that Naganadel doesn't get a Beast Boost, and then also is still at the same amount of health. So I Thunderwave with the Purloin. I'm actually wide lens on Purloin this week because I really needed to make sure that this Thunderwave was going to hit if it was into the Naganadel, or indeed if Crobat came. So what I did was then fire off this Brave Bird into the Naganadel, and it does pick it up. So as I say, it didn't actually matter that the Gunk Shot missed. I would have just preferred for a more comfortable, less risk endgame if I had have picked it up. Sorry, if Gunk Shot had have picked me up, because if Gunk Shot kills Braviary, then Terrakion comes in and Earthquake literally just there's nothing else that could happen. Whereas there, I felt like if Earthquake was still a roll, and he had picked up the KO onto Braviary and got the special attack boost, or indeed I'd missed the Thunder Wave and then he picked up the KO into Purloin, or picked up a double KO. There was just way more that could go wrong. But as it is, it didn't matter. I'm now in a position where there's no way Skuntank can kill me unless it gets a crit on a Play Rough. I was willing to take that risk because so here's what I figured. He's gonna predict a fake out. What I want to do is just make sure that I can get 1v1 with the Skuntank. I wasn't even sure. I figured Earthquake's not gonna pick up a one-hit KO, but if we're gonna go down to crits, like I just was willing to take the risk. I don't know why. I think in hindsight, I probably could have done way more here. But the issue is if I don't go for an Earthquake here, then I have to go for a Sacred Sword. If I go for a Sacred Sword or a Rock Slide, I run risk of doing less damage, or I run the risk of missing, and it just did not feel right. Like, it didn't feel at all the right thing to do. So yeah, I do go for an Earthquake, and I pick up the KO on Toxicroak and my own Mr. Rhyme, and then I am left 1v1 with the Skuntank. So now it comes down to essentially whether or not we get crit by the Play Rough. I know it's got Play Rough from game 1, and I think it's probably within range of a crit. I didn't remember exactly how much damage a Play Rough was going to do, but I'm pretty sure I'm in range of a crit. I land an Earthquake, which does I don't know what that is, about 80%. And the Skuntank goes for the Play Rough. It lands into Terrakion, and it does not pick up the KO. Looking at that damage, the crit on the Play Rough would have definitely picked up the KO, and we'd have been in some real trouble. Thankfully, it did not. Skuntank goes for a Protect. I'm not really sure why, but we go for an Earthquake. It doesn't land, and then obviously we're able to pick up the Earthquake KO next turn in what was, I think, so interestingly, having watched the other side of the battle, I think there were definitely turns that, had other decisions been made, it would have made life a lot more difficult. As it is, and as it sometimes happens, some weeks you just get it right and some weeks you get it wrong. And I think back to not so much last week, but the first week against Toots and the Suicunes, where every call that we made on our side just didn't work out. Even with the best intentions and logic. This week, I think the same probably could be said for my opponent, where he had some really good ideas and made some really good calls. Unfortunately, through through the decisions that we made, those calls weren't quite right, and that's how it falls sometimes. I think I would be really interested to have played this one out again with different decisions. Also, we chatted afterwards about whether or not he could have run Wide Guard Toxapex, or even Levitate on the Wheezing might have been an interesting option. But there we go. Thank you guys very, very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this kind of different style of commentary. I will be back to live comms next week, provided my stuff is all fixed. But yeah, have a great week, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.